first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend pay less on bills due to a new purchase because he wouldn't let me when I made less money than him? My boyfriend of 2 years and I live together. We split expenses 50-50 when it comes to rent, groceries, utilities, things for our house, etc. We both make about the same money working full-time. We keep our finances, such as our own vehicles, doctor bills, cell phone bills, etc. separate. My boyfriend recently made an irresponsible and unnecessary purchase. To keep it short, I won't go into details, but it was something he absolutely did not need, just wanted, and it has made his disposable income significantly less. This has been a sore subject between us. The other day, he asked me to sit down and talk. He told me since he paid more on his personal bills a month, he felt like we needed to adjust how much we each paid on shared expenses. So basically, he felt he should get to pay less. This made me mad for a few reasons. First, I said a purchase was absolutely not necessary by any means. And when we first started living together, I made way less money than I do now. I worked part-time at another job and made $12 less on the hour than him. However, then, he refused to budge on letting me pay less bills. So I budgeted and saved, and always had everything paid despite that. So I told him no. I told him he was not willing to pay more than me when I made way less money than he did. And the purchase was unnecessary, and he knew it would make his finances difficult. If he couldn't pay our bills, he needed to leave. He of course thinks I'm an a-hole for not budging on the issues. I think it's only fair. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. It was a motorcycle. Now for the top comments. I'm going to keep it brief. Not the a-hole. Pay your bills first, live second. That's what adulting is all about. Being financially responsible, etc. goes through understanding the consequences of your purchases. The part about him not wanting to split proportionally to your contribution to the household revenue comforts me in this not the a-hole vote. That's 2 red flags, by the way. Be careful and all the best. Speaking of red flags, I took a peek at your post history. Your parents don't like him. He put you on speakerphone without your knowledge after doing something really upsetting in an attempt to lower his parents' opinion on you. And now this. You're only 20. Time to move on. The longer you stay with someone who isn't right for you, the less time you will have to find someone who is. Not a a-hole. No, he doesn't get to pay less just because he bought himself a new toy. Plus, by paying less and OP paying more, OP is basically paying for part of the new toy. Not a a-hole. You worked 2 jobs and had significantly less income before any bills, and he said, gotta be 50-50. Otherwise, I'd have less money for me. You both earn the same income, and is still okay with 50-50. He spends his money on unnecessary purchase that A, benefits only him, and B, you did not support. And now he says can't be 50-50 anymore, otherwise you will have more money than I have. Never combine money with this guy or pay more than 50%. He told me since he paid more on his personal bills a month, he felt like we needed to adjust how much we each paid on shared expenses. So basically, he felt he should get to pay less. Like, what on earth? If he didn't want to pay more on his personal bills, he should take care not to increase them. Opie hasn't increased any expenses. Why should she have to bear the burden of paying for his financial irresponsibility? The shared bills didn't increase, which means Opie has no responsibility in causing the increase, but she has to pay the price? I can't put into words how ridiculous and entitled his request is. What exactly do you see in this guy, Opie? He sounds like a piece of work and more trouble than it's worth. I can't imagine him being giving and fair in other areas of your life. If this is how stingy he is with spending money on you, well, feeling entitled to you spending money on him. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend I don't want to hear him teach me lessons in every conversations we have? My 27 female boyfriend Rick, 28 male, and I have been dating for a little over a year. We live together and I love him very much. So, needless to say, I can see myself marrying this man. I love that we can have stimulating and intelligent conversations together over dinners, in car rides, and really anywhere and everywhere. We talk all the time about a wide range of topics. Rick is really smart, works in finance, loves history, understands the economy and how it works, etc. I love that about him. But Rick also has a tendency to try to educate me in the middle of a conversation and teach me a lesson about something new. For example, when the pandemic hit, he was always teaching me new topics/vocabulary surrounding the stock market. A lot of times it's really cool, and he's a great teacher. I love listening to him speak so passionately about the things that matter to him, but sometimes it becomes way too much. Sometimes I'm too tired to receive a whole history lesson about what happened in 1845, and that's why, insert law here, exists in government today. Sometimes I work long hours. I clean and then cook us dinner, and I want to have a nice conversation while we eat, which is awesome. But inevitably, it turns into him going on and on and on, teaching me something complex about the economy that goes way over my head. You guys get the drift. Today, I admitted to him how I feel. I told him that I love that he's so smart and the fact that we can always have intelligent conversations. But sometimes I just want to have a simple conversation without him turning it into a lesson where he's the teacher and I'm the student. I mentioned that sometimes it goes over my head. I'm really tired, or I lose track of what he is saying in a long explanation. And I don't mean to be rude and not listen, but sometimes I just don't want it to turn into a lecture/lesson. It really upset him, and I hurt his feelings badly. He says he feels like I'm one of the only people who listens to him talk anyway. I feel absolutely horrible, but I wanted to be honest about how I felt. At this point, I feel like I'm definitely the a-hole, but I want to ask my Reddit community. Am I the a-hole? No a-holes here. I think anyone reasonable can see where you're coming from, and you handle the issue like an adult by communicating with him about it. I also wouldn't call him an a-hole yet, because it was obviously he deeply enjoyed you listening to him. And to find out you didn't always enjoy it probably hurts his feelings. I would just keep trying to communicate with him. Tell him you love how smart he is, how passionate he is. You love to learn from him, but no one wants to be in a class at all hours of the day, especially after a long day's work. Maybe get a safe word to use for this situation? So if you come home, you can say, Aurora Borealis right away, and he knows you're too exhausted to think. From what you said, you like listening to him talk to a certain extent. But if he talks too frequently and for too long, it can lose the initial interest and border on rambling. Your feelings are entirely reasonable. And when any basic interaction or intimate moments turn into a lecture, it can be quite tiring. If you feel like the a-hole for telling him how you feel, don't. It is better than the alternative where you bottle it up and eventually snap on him on an escalated and unwarranted level, causing damage to the relationship. I wonder if there's a reason you are one of the only people who listens to him talk, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Has he thought about starting a podcast? It might take some of the heat off you, Opie. No a-holes here. It's perfectly reasonable to need some low-key downtime after a long day. You're being perfectly fair in asking him to tone it down a bit when you're tired. It sounds like he's been told by others in his life that he talks too much or something, so it's probable that you've hit on a sensitive subject and is hurt. It doesn't sound like he's being rude about it, just that he's sad. I'd say you'll need to talk through this a bit more to find an ideal balance between the complex talks and the simpler ones. But overall, I don't think anyone's being an a-hole here. Mostly this feels like a bump that comes along with learning to coexist. Hope you guys work it out. Sometimes I work long hours. I clean and then cook us dinner. Maybe he should do this, and he won't have the energy to try to teach things you don't care about. Not the a-hole. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for tricking my husband into letting me take all of our fun money budget? I know the title sounds bad, but it's more reasonable than it sounds. Long story short, my husband and I have a very detailed budget that we're fairly strict about. This has allowed us to pay off all of our debt and buy a house in the past 5 years. Part of this budget is $100 of fun money. Usually, most of it goes to him, as he plays video games, and they're like $60 a game, but I haven't minded as my main spending is on books, which are pretty cheap. Plus, he brings in more money than I do. It's worked out well so far. So, the issue is this month. In November, we had a baby, and in December, I got sick of doing all the household chores. It's been this way for most of our relationship, where sometimes he pitches in more, but it never sticks. I was fed up with raising this baby and doing all of the housework, so I suggested that we have the main fun money pot, but we have our own separate buckets too. And each time one of us does a chore, they get 50 cents from the main bucket into their own bucket. Each chore takes about 5 minutes, though some take much longer, like laundry. So that ends up being about $6 an hour, which is way cheaper than it would cost to hire a cleaner, which is how I pitched it to him. Baby care isn't part of the chores either. He agreed because he felt it would help motivate him to help me more. Cue eye roll. So we agreed on the chores and started this on February 1. He did some major cleaning the first couple days, cleaned the whole kitchen and living room, but it quickly tapered off. All in all, he's made about $7. Meanwhile, I've gotten the rest of the fun money pot. He hasn't cleaned anything in almost 2 weeks, so he hasn't noticed. Well, today he wanted to buy a game and realized there was no money left as joint fund money. He asked me to give him some of mine, and I said no. He blew up on me that I knew that I was going to get all of our fun money, which is true, and that I was just being a petty a-hole and just keeping money I normally wouldn't have spent anyway just to prove a point. And again, that's true. After sitting on it for a couple days, I'm starting to feel kind of bad. I basically trapped him, and I knew this would happen, but I couldn't think of any other way to motivate him to help out. But that doesn't make it right, I suppose. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. It only worked because he was contributing way less than you. And you excluded a category that is a lot of work and that you are doing most of from the system too. Not the a-hole. Yep, not the a-hole. He did 7% of the labor, so $7 is his reward for parenting and being an equal partner living in a home. You didn't trick him. He failed to see the value in upkeeping and maintaining his own home. Anyone telling you should have reminded him is missing the point. This chore exercise was meant to show him that he has to keep on the ball himself, or lose out on the prize money. It is his fault for not remembering to do chores. Sounds like you have 2 kids in your home. One sounds like a teen, grumpy over his allowance money. Also, reminding him and having to manage the chores, keeping track, do we have what we need, did everything get done, etc., is just another kind of work. The mental load. Here's a comic by Emma that also covers the topic. Maybe one of them will help him understand that making a system where OP has to remind him to do things just makes even more work for her. Not the a-hole. Lol, not the a-hole. Equal pay for equal work. Not the a-hole. The fact he's been taking the majority of it every month all this time alone isn't fair to you, even if you were both doing equal work. He buys a new $60 game every month? Damn, I'm a gamer, and even I think that's ridiculous. Maybe set him up a GameFly account? Less than half of what he's spending, and he can take out 1 or 2 games a month to play through, then return. I'm guessing he plays through them, and they just sit on the shelf afterwards anyway? Maybe if he pulls his weight at home, he wouldn't have the time to be going through video games so fast. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for making mother-in-law's boyfriend tier 2 at our wedding? So, we got married recently and it had to be super low budget. Honestly, my feelings were a little hurt because when my husband's older sister got married a year ago, mother-in-law and father-in-law, divorced, went all out. But they are against us getting married because of our ages, both 20, not being done with school, so they did not offer to help. My parents chipped in what they could, but like I said, it was super low budget. Mother-in-law lives about 2 hours away and we don't see her that much. She has been dating Chris for 9 months, but we never met him. She wanted to bring him to the wedding, which was fine, but to save money, we had tier 1 and tier 2. If you were in tier 1, you could pick from an Italian sausage, a steak, a hot dog, or a burger for dinner. If you were tier 2, it was just a burger or hot dog, and there was only enough cake for tier 1. Mother-in-law and Chris ended up to get food, and my cousin who was grilling asked what they wanted. No one told them about the tiers, so Chris asked for steak. My husband overheard and explained the tiers. Only family and a couple best friends were tier 1. Chris was laughing, but said it was okay, but mother-in-law made a big deal. She called us rude and tacky 3 times. My husband told her to stop causing a scene, and Chris said it was really okay, but she was clearly pissy. Mother-in-law texted us the next morning that our party was embarrassing and that we are tacky. Most of the people seemed to get that we were saving money, and I didn't have any complaints. Father-in-law and sister-in-law agree with mother-in-law though, and said we were bad hosts. You're the a-hole for having tiered food like that at your wedding. Seriously? So disrespectful to anyone in tier 2? Yikes. At least their friends and family know where they stand with the newlyweds now. One of the nastiest and tackiest things I've ever heard of at a wedding. You're young. Your older self will wonder what in the world you were thinking. This just isn't done. Cringe-worthy. This kind of decision-making ability is exactly why you should get married at 20. That's what I was thinking. I just feel like they should have held off their wedding. I mean, don't have one if you can't afford it, but I didn't want to say that. No offense. You're the a-hole. You cannot treat guests like second-class citizens. Just do burgers and hot dogs for everyone if your budget's too low to offer everyone premium food. And cake. Everyone deserves cake at a wedding. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.